Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it might be where you are out there. Welcome into .NET Conf. Focus on F Sharp. It's so good to see you. We've got a full day of programming here for you. This is of course another one in our series of .NET Conf focus events, a full day that's focused on a technology, a series of tools around .NET that we think are going to make you a better developer, a better programmer, and improve your experience with .NET. Now, there's a lot going on around the entire event here. There's a lot happening that I want to make sure that you know about, that you tune in and find out about. Now, there were a bunch of slides at the start here, but I want to make sure you know that we've got a handful of sponsors that are available that have made some swag available, some digital swag, some real swag that you can get your hands on. You can get more information about those right here. Focus.netconf.net/swag. And there's great stuff there from a bunch of sponsors. Like I said, digital content that you can get and get running to show your support for .NET. Now, a couple other things that are going on. There's a mod the .NET bot website that's set up as well. There you go, mod.net-bot.net. You can go there and you can make your own .NET bot that you can turn into a wallpaper. You can even 3D print a .NET bot and have that available for you. So make sure you check that out. .NET Conf 2021, our full 3-day event is coming up in November 9th through 11th. We just opened the call for content. Go to .netconf.net and you can check the call for content there. Submit your sessions for consideration for the big event that we have coming up in November. We're going to be announcing the launch of .NET 6 at that event. Tomorrow here on Learn TV, if you're watching on Learn TV, it's right here. But if you're watching Learn somewhere else, YouTube or Twitch, make sure you check out. We have a full session that's going to be walking through the very basics of F Sharp called Let's Learn .NET. All about F Sharp tomorrow. We've got a couple of Learn sessions that are available, Learn modules available on learn.microsoft.com that you can check out to walk through and learn how to get started with F Sharp. We encourage you to check those out. All right. I think that's enough rambling from me here. We've got our friend Don Syme coming on here, who's going to kick things off for the day and talk to us all about the great stuff with F Sharp. Let me bring on Don Syme. He's a language designer for F Sharp. There's Don. How you doing, Don?
Hello, Jeff. And it is great to be here at .NET Conf, Focus Day on F Sharp. And I'm very excited for the day of content we've got going. We've got lined up today. So thanks for having me on.
And I'm looking here in the console. You've got a whole collection of great speakers to help you with this keynote. I'm going to step away and let you kick things off.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And yes, let's get started with the keynote for the day, which is called the F Sharp Bonanza. And many of you will know I'm the originator and designer of the F Sharp programming language. I'm an F Sharp community contributor, and so are the wonderful guests we've got coming on today. And instead of giving a highly technical talk, you can find many, many different technical talks from me online. You can also find talks about the history of F Sharp and many other things. But today I want to do something different, because one of the reasons I so love F Sharp is about the community of people who are using it and contributing to it, the amazing companies that are using it to do all sorts of different programming around the world, and the people who are educating others and teaching and everything else that is going on. And I just want to, in this bonanza, not talk about the F Sharp language so much. I'll just talk a little bit about it, but let them come and share some of their experiences with using F Sharp and why it's making a big difference for them in there, whether it's a commercial context or anything else that's going on. First of all, 3 big themes you will see coming out in both in this Bonanza keynote and throughout the whole way we talk about F Sharp, about what are the characteristics of F Sharp as a language, what has it always been aiming for. And these are the things which we started F Sharp to deliver, to give you succinct programming, to give you robust, and I mean robust, correct code, and to give you performant programming in conjunction with interoperability, great libraries, part of the .NET ecosystem, part of the JavaScript ecosystem, and so on. So these are three big themes where you're going to be hearing a lot about today. And we'll return to those at the end of the keynote. And I think many different speakers throughout the day will be touching on these themes about, what is F# like to use as a language? What's the experience of it? So a question people ask is is like, what is F# good at? What is it kind of good for? What is specifically, which particular part of programming is it good for? And there's this wonderful answer to this question, which I want to draw out. And the answer was done by Dave Thomas in the F# community. And he said F#'s good for programming. F# is just good for all sorts of different kinds of programming activity. I really want to say that it can be used for an exceptionally broad range of activities, but there are some particular kinds of programming which you're going to be hearing a lot about today. And I just want to quickly call them out, and that is F# is great for web programming. You're going to be, I think the first three or four guests we have are going to be talking about using F# for web on the client side or on the server side. They're going to be talking about it for microservices, and they're going to be talking about it for JavaScript programming on the front end. And F# is also fantastic for cloud programming. There's many different dimensions to this. Some of them are based around web programming as sort of a foundation. And then, the microservices I mentioned can be seen as a form of cloud programming. And it can be about cloud delivery. And F# is actually excellent for AI, ML, and data science programming as well. And I just wanted to, F# generally, good for programming. I wanted to draw out those three: web, cloud, AI, ML, and data science. And now, but in terms of characteristics, just to fill in that kind of, what is F# good for, and to kind of populate it with some words that you can use to tell your friends about what is F#. They say, what's that F# thing? And I said, what's it for? And they say, well, maybe you're working in Java and it's a little bit there's a little bit too much ceremony in all your code, and you'd like your code to be more like Python. It's really good for succinct programming. It's really good to kind of get that crisp, clear solutions to your programming problems. And it's also very good for robust and correct programming. And this is more aimed at those of you who are perhaps more familiar with Python. And, Python's great. It's really succinct and can be really very, very clear in its expression. But it partly because of the lack of strong typing and a lot of some other characteristics, well, it can have kind of issues. Sometimes that kind of keeping that succinctness while also being correct. And during the day, for instance, we'll be hearing from, or during this keynote, we'll be hearing from people who've moved from Python to F# in order to get the best of both worlds, in order to get that succinctness in programming and to get that correctness and robustness as well that comes from strong typing and some other technical features. And it's also excellent for performance programming. Its performance characteristics are exceptionally good. You're right up there, C# and Java kind of performance, while keeping that succinctness and also delivering on that combination of features, a combination of characteristics which underlie what we're delivering with F#. You can find out all about F# at .NET/F#. But to summarize, F# is good for programming, web, cloud, AI, data science, ML, and many other characteristics, many other kinds of programming. Just to give you a little bit of orientation, how do you get started with F#? Well, F# is everywhere. It's available in the .NET SDK. You can just go to .NET.Microsoft.com. You can install the .NET SDK extremely easily, whether you're on Linux or whether you're on Mac or maybe you're on Windows. And you get the command line tools. You can start doing .NET New Lang F#, .NET Build. And these tools are available absolutely everywhere. And you can be using Visual Studio Code as your editor, and you can be using plenty of other tools tooling choices. And the Getting Started material will take you through all that. If you want to get started on the web backend, there are several choices. You can use ASP.NET, for example, ASP.NET Core directly. There, you can also use a wonderful system called Giraffe that gives you this ASP.NET micro web framework for building rich web applications. You've got the URL there. This is hyper functional server-side programming. There are some other choices, things like Falco and some other kind of choices for doing F# on the web backend. And lots of the people we have in the Bonanza today have been using this. But also, you can do F# for the web front end using JavaScript, or using a system called Fable or a system called WebSharper. And I've given you the getting started instructions here for using Fable. And this is F# in a, many of you might be thinking, F# is a .NET language. Why is he talking about JavaScript? It's no, F# is a JavaScript language as well. And you can live in the JavaScript ecosystem using it a lot like people use TypeScript. And you just do, you're in the node, you can use node packages, you can do npm install, and you can use F# as a JavaScript language. This is tooling provided by the F# community, fable.io, websharper.com, and go in and join in. They're very exciting projects and you'll be hearing more about those in the later talks during the day. If you want to do full stack, there's a great getting started a system called Safe. There's some other options around as well, but you can do .NET New Safe template, install the templates, and just it's a very straightforward, and bang, straight away you're in there with a back end in F#, a front end using Fable in F#, and very simple deployment through to Microsoft Azure to actually get it live. And some of you will know that later in the day I'll be doing a session, it's a pre-recorded session, with Guido van Rossum, the designer of Python, and he will be actually, he doesn't know this, but the programming he will be doing in that session is with SafeStack templates, and so he's actually doing F# JavaScript programming, F# .NET programming, but it's really, really simple to get started with this system. It's one of the best full stack systems in existence today, I believe, in terms of its technical characteristics. And it's used, we'll be talking about how it's used in practice in just a moment. So F# for data science and ML, you've got F# in Jupyter notebooks, in .NET notebooks, in Visual Studio Code. On the left here, beautiful programming experience for doing this explorative data science ML kind of programming. You've also got ML libraries through ML.NET and many other library choices. You've got great charting libraries with the people at Plotly delivering .NET libraries and great F# experiences for using the Plotly charting tools. And so head over to .NET Interactive and .NET/ML and get started with those. Finally, there's a whole learning to code kind of experience, code.visualstudio.com, learn to code. You can get started with it's a single click install for a full development environment with Visual Studio Code, C#, F#, .NET Interactive notebooks. So if you want that single click learning to code experience, get involved at code.visualstudio.com, learn to code. Okay, so with that, I would like to bring on the very first of my special guests in our section, which is called F# for a Better World. And we are bringing on, so I'd like to ask Jeff to bring on my first special guest, who is Tejas Vishwanth, and who is the founder and CTO of Chaldal Engineering. And Chaldal is the largest, so first of all, hello, Tejas Vishwanth, and welcome to .NET Conf Focus Day on F#.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me here.
It is a total pleasure. I'll just flick you over so I can see your face on my screen. You see you infinitely stretching into the background there, and wonderful to have you. I know you're joining us from San Francisco today. If that's right.
That's right.
And I will, if Jeff has got, I won't be sharing my screen on this section, and Jeff can just bring you and me up on the screen if that's what he wishes. Thank you very much, Jeff. So Chaldal, it is the largest e-commerce company in Bangladesh, if I'm not right. And you've told me, I know Bangladesh is about 150 million people and some of the world's most densely populated cities. So why don't you tell me a little bit? Firstly, I think we've talked about this before. I've been to Bangladesh, which is relatively rare. I went in 1994, and I've read a lot about the history of Bangladesh, and I understood Bangladesh back then was in a dire situation. And for me, it is so exciting to know that technology and programming, and even programming in F# and .NET is playing a core role in the Bangladesh economy today, if I understand things correctly. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, that's fair. We are one of the most prominent tech firms in Bangladesh right now, and we are F# first. So what you're saying is absolutely right.
I mean, for me, that's just an amazing thing to know.
Well,
to know that
F# is like such a great language. I think it it deserves to be up there. So
yes, I've actually played with this idea that one of the ways, programming is a competitive thing in the end. There's different countries around the world all need to kind of retool to become more productive. And right. I personally think that through embracing tools like F#, economies actually get a productivity boost and I think of it in the sense of like retooling in the way that, say, the German economy really cares about retooling its automated industry, right. And here we have a third world economy and retooling with modern programming tooling.
Right.
And so tell us a bit how Chaldal got started. Tell us about the kind of work you're doing. Right. And I know you have both commercial and non-commercial work, if I understand correctly.
Right. Yeah, of course. So we started back in 2013. At that point, my co-founder and I were working in a fintech startup in Silicon Valley. And, life was changing very rapidly here. Like we had an app for everything at that point. And at the same time, we were both from developing countries. I from India, my co-founder from Bangladesh. And there was this massive tech vacuum that was building up in these places. And when we were there, we always used to notice that, hunger and poverty were more distribution problems. There was no real scarcity in many of the resources.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow. So you see hunger and poverty as an organizational information and logistics
exactly
challenge.
There's enough food in the world to feed everybody. It's just that the systems are just not built well. For example, perishable supply chains in developing countries. There's just no transparency in how they are run. They're just run by many layers of middlemen, and nobody knows what happens. There are massive price fluctuations. The farmers get hurt, the consumers get hurt, quality is bad, and nothing is predictable. So this is one of the problems we set out to solve. And with technology becoming so easy and accessible these days, this is one of the things that actually which made sense for us to pursue at that point. So in 2015, we launched the world's first 1-hour delivery service for groceries in the city of Dhaka.
So you're saying the world's first 1-hour delivery, which I know we have here in
grocery delivery.
London now as well. Are you saying
right.
that was first done?
Yeah, we did it so we were inspired by what happened in Manhattan, where Amazon set up a 2-hour delivery service back in 2015 in January. And then we were like, hey, why can't we do this over here? And then we decided to set up the world's first 1-hour grocery delivery service. We used a network of micro warehouses so that was way back in 2015, right before we got into Y Combinator, and then and this eventually led to a series of investments from the World Bank.
Wow! That's just an amazing and inspiring story. And so tell us a bit about why you chose F# to build out your technology stack and what sort of advantages it's been giving you.
Yeah. So, when we started off back in 2013, we had a massive vacuum in technology services. So we had to actually build out a lot of things ourselves. We had to build out mapping, we had to build out compliance, HR systems, accounting, payments. So what we had were a lot of complex systems and a lot of back office tech-driven processes. And this eventually led to a lot of complexity in our code. And one of the things you have to understand about developing countries is it's very expensive to raise capital. So a similar company of similar size in a different place would be able to raise $50 million and hire a team of 100 engineers, and we would only be able to raise $5 million and just afford a team of 10 people. So eventually, but the problems we were facing were exactly the same. So eventually, it just got a bit tiring because we would just every new release would bring in a whole bunch of bugs along with it. So I was trying to find a way to gain an edge over our peers. We were forced to innovate at that point. And I came across Scott Lashen's wonderful website. It was life-changing, I must say.
And this is F# for funandprofit.com. And Scott will be speaking next, actually, giving an intro to F# session. And yeah, so this was your entry into the world of F#.
And he introduced this concept of modeling your problem domains really well. And F# has a fantastic type system that allows you to do so. And when you do that and you make your illegal states unrepresentable in code, you just make away with do away with a large class of problems which you'd otherwise have. So
so my understanding is you're actually using F# on the front end as well, and you talk about it here in some notes I have here. You're able to churn out cross-platform mobile apps and web apps using F# and using Fable on the front end, if I understand correctly.
That's right. So we use Fable. So we bring our models all the way to the front end using Fable, and then that compiles down to JavaScript, which is targeted on the, we use this tool called React XP, which is a abstraction on top of React Native for mobile apps and React Web for web. So we have one code base, which then targets all the UI platforms at the same time.
Wow, that is amazing. Well, in the name of time, I know we've got a lot of guests coming on today. You're going to stay on, Tejas, and I'd like to bring on my second special guest, who is Kelsey Tripp, who is Director of Engineering at Imperfect Foods. And if we have Kelsey coming on, hello, welcome to .NET Conf Focus Day on F#, Kelsey, and lovely to see you piping your name there using the F# piping operator into your Twitter handle, Tripp. Welcome, Kelsey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Total pleasure. Now, you're both in San Francisco, but in some ways you're at different ends of the economic spectrum. We've got Bangladesh, third world country, with its, Tejas is talking about farmers, refugees, and refugee camps and other things that his company is working with, and profit and non-profit. And you, so tell us a little bit about your company, Imperfect Foods, what it is and what your mission is.
Yeah. So at Imperfect Foods, we're primarily we are based in the U.S. right now, and we're reimagining grocery delivery for a kinder and less wasteful world. Our mission at Imperfect is to eliminate food waste and build a better food system for everyone. And we do that through offering sustainable and affordable groceries through weekly deliveries, which allows our customers to, save time, save money, and also save the planet.
Wow. So, in fact, both of you are, in a sense, improving efficiency in food distribution and food reuse. In different economies, different settings, different scales in some way. I think Childhood's a very big established company in Bangladesh, and you're more of the kind of sort of smaller startup kind of platform kind of thing, if I understand, Kelsey. So, but you, Kelsey, also chose to use F#. And if I understand correctly, you're using F# mostly on the back end and in a microservices kind of architecture. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So explain a little bit more about what that means in practices. Microservices is a word that gets thrown around a lot by different settings. What's it practically speaking mean for you in F#?
Yeah. So our software engineering team builds the e-commerce platform and also the internal supply chain and logistics tooling that supports our mission. And so with that, we're moving a lot of data around between various internal and external systems. And so we've built out a number of event-driven services that each are handling a particular concern. So for example, we have one service that's dedicated to managing our product catalog, another one that's handling customer orders, another one for providing real-time inventory availability. And F# is our language of choice for all of these backend services because of type safety, scalability, and all of the good stuff that we're going to be talking about throughout the day.
And Kelsey, you in the notes you sent me earlier, you talked about you and your team as being pragmatic practitioners of functional programming. Now, I haven't talked about functional programming much along the way so far in the talk today. Talked about succinct and robust and so on. And I know a lot of people, functional programming is, of course, one of the primary things supported by F# and is one way to leverage F#'s features. So you talk about yourself being functional programming and pragmatic. And for some people, those words don't go together, right? People think of functional as being some weird thing that mathematicians do or something like that. But for you, it's a pragmatic choice to deliver a company. You're betting your company on it. So tell us, why is functional programming pragmatic for you, or why is F# the natural choice to do pragmatic functional programming?
Yeah, great question. So I should say I borrowed that phrasing of pragmatic functional programming from one of our great backend engineers.
Oh, great.
But we leverage a lot of the functional paradigms both in F# and also in some cases in JavaScript. Our front end is built in React, and we do have a handful of Node services as well. But in general, I think our team takes a really practical approach and tries to use the right tool for the given job rather than kind of having a strict one-size-fits-all mindset. But so that's why F# is really great because it provides all the benefits of functional programming like immutability and composition, but also has the flexibility of being able to leverage the broader .NET platform. And of course, as we'll talk about, the performant nature of it is excellent as well.
Wow, that is great. All those things line up with kind of what I've been saying, and that's really great to hear. So Tejas, just in the last couple of minutes that we have before we move on, tell us some of what have been your biggest challenges. I mean, it's really hard for me to imagine. You've got a technology company, you've got all the challenges of being in a I've been to Dhaka. It's a chaotic city so quite often. So are you spending most of your time tracking down bugs, or are you spending most of your time like tracking down real world problems in warehouses or supply? I know you use this interesting micro warehouses kind of model for your network. What are your biggest problems day to day?
Well, actually, our problems is we don't have too many problems on the tech side ever since we moved on to F#. So yeah, so we used to have a lot of problems, just like building out large scale systems. We had to build out so much code, and we would have so many bugs. So these days, the biggest problem is just like teaching F# to new fresh grads from universities, and but we have a mentorship culture in a company, luckily. So we're able to onboard somebody within 3 months, teach them the concepts of functional paradigms. And, even the funny thing is, even when they go back to write regular imperative code after that, they actually end up producing much better code. So it's like they get like a nice OS upgrade for the brain,
Wow, that is F# making people better programmers. That's good to hear. Okay, I'm sorry. In the name of time, we have to move on. I wish I know we will be inviting both of you to future F# events, to keynotes or similar things. So where I personally will look forward to having you along sometime soon at other F# events. And it's been so lovely to have you both here on the F# Bonanza today. Thank you very much. And with that, I shall switch back to my slides. And we shall just talk, if my slides are showing. They are indeed. And I will talk about 2 other examples of making the world a better place with F#. And thank you very much to Kelsey and Tejas. So the first is we live in the time of COVID. And I want to talk about something that has been done with F# that has been making a big difference in one particular country, which is the country of Slovenia in Europe. And it is the COVID-19 Tracker Slovenia. It's a community-run project that collects, curates, and publishes COVID-19 data for Slovenia. Came to life in March 2020 and serves around 500,000 to 1 million daily users, which, given the population of Slovenia, is actually a substantial chunk of that country's population are using this. It's an open source project. It's actually a polyglot project. There are, I think, many different contributors to this. It's got Python for data capturing. It's got C# for the data APIs. It's got Vue as a single page application framework, and it uses F# Fable for the data wrangling and visualization on the front end. So F# for JavaScript. And F# has proved to be a good solution. The majority of people contributing to the code have actually never used F# before, and yet most of them were able to quickly find their way in the code and develop their own visualizations with little or no orientation and very few bugs or runtime problems. The next company I will mention making the world a better place with F# is called Machtmit, and they are in the north of Germany, and they are operating a platform which is itself operating 2,300 charging points for electric vehicles in northern Germany. And the platform allows drivers to start and stop charging transactions and to pay with PayPal, credit card, and so on. They've been live for over a year. Business is booming, and they are able to triple their monthly sales in that first year. The platform is 100% F#. It's actually using the SafeStack architecture. It's effectively a SafeStack application that you'll see Guido van Rossum of Python will be using that architecture in about 3 hours' time. And it uses ASP.NET Core 5, Azure Functions, Event Hubs, Azure Cognitive Search, Azure Storage, and the front end is Fable Elmesh with React. And the comment from Mark Mitt is that the F# ecosystem is mature now. And with that, I'm going to bring on my next two special guests, and I will stop. The first of those is Edward Ostrovsky, who is Associate Director at a very large and iconic American company, Walmart Global Tech. And Edward, welcome to F#.NET Conf, and lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, man. Really excited to be here.
Okay, thank you very much. A couple of audio problems there. I hope it's okay. There was a little bit of something going on, but let's see. That's how we go. So I understand you. I mean, you're. Can we just do another test there, Edward? I am getting very bad audio coming through. I can't hear you. Let's try that again one more time. So unmute you now. Okay, you are on mute now. If you can unmute.
What about that?
That is good. I've got
okay.
That is good. We can hear you. Thank you. Okay, so I understand you are growing a team at Walmart, and you've actually been hiring a lot of F# developers lately. So tell us about the team you lead, what size you are, and how you fit in the Walmart business. Hang on, we have audio problem again. Okay, Edward, I think with the audio, one more. I did hear you for a moment.
Let me try this one.
Let's try that.
Okay.
All right, so
sorry
let's see. Tell us about the team you lead, what size you are, and how you fit in the Walmart business.
So I lead a team called Thor that is a warehouse management system in Walmart, and it powers 10 fulfillment centers around the country.
Wow.
These fulfillment centers account for 25% of Walmart's e-commerce business.
Wow.
And the main set of FCs powering Walmart fulfillment services. We have 25 engineers in the US and India.
Wow. So you're the sort of the software base for those big fulfillment centers that are just, a major part of delivering out Walmart's sales across the United States. That sounds fascinating. For me, I don't. Interestingly, again, it's in that logistics and organization kind of programming, making that whole business. We've seen a company in Bangladesh. We've seen a company in San Francisco, and now we're seeing one of the biggest companies in America using F# to help improve program a more efficient world. So tell us what sort of programming is involved in order fulfillment: server side, client side, database. What's going on?
We're a full stack system. Our entire backend is in Azure Kubernetes and is fully F#, and the front end is TypeScript and React.
Great.
Our architecture is event sourcing using Event Store. We have usages of Cosmos DB, SQL Server, Azure Tables and Queues, Elasticsearch.
Wow.
It's whatever's appropriate for the system at that time.
That sounds. Now I remember I've seen a talk, I think, from about the use of event sourcing in a predecessor company which was acquired by Walmart called Jet, and I remember that the use of event sourcing was really incredible in its conjunction with F# for making a robust event sourcing system. In particular, those that you could replay the entire history where necessary, and the like. Is that the kind of techniques we're talking about?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's why. So tell us about your main concerns as a dev manager. Are you interested in code quality? We're talking about F# teams, people, about, it's not just about the technology. It's about how programmers communicate. And is it about code reviews? Is it about careers? Is it about ensuring recoverability? What keeps you awake at night? Logging the system? What is it?
All of the above. Building a software is more than just writing a piece of code. You have to define a name for some definition of done that includes all the buzzwords like quality, maintainability, readability, highly tested, well documented, all the proper monitoring. And that motivates me to help each person, especially if they're starting out in their careers, to learn more than just the coding part of our jobs.
Okay. So a big part of what you're doing is making sure they're not just coders, but they are quality software engineers delivering on all of those aspects of a software base for the company.
Yeah, the better they think about the whole process, the more ownership they take and they grow. And then I don't have to be as hands-on as possible, and they can be at my quality bar.
I see. So you kind of have a holistic or well-rounded view of the developer, and F# is part of that role. So tell me about how you found it hiring F# developers. I know you've been doing that recently. What are their typical backgrounds? Do they learn F# on the job, or do they already know it? What are you seeing?
I've hired some F# enthusiasts, but most of the people had like no experience with functional languages, F# or even .NET. Most people come from a object-oriented background in Java. So we just basically assume that for the first few weeks or even months sometimes that they're just going to be learning and ramping up on the job.
Okay, well that's interesting. So I mean, from what we heard for that the Slovenia COVID tracker, people are just able to come in and pick up F#. It's actually good for learning. It's easy to learn.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think that that must be one of the advantages of keeping your code base clear, well documented, is that people are picking up those practices as they work into the job.
Right. So, when we first hire people, we throw them into our onboarding documentation, which I've spent a lot of time improving. And it first introduces to our system, our business, and our tech stack, but then quickly just tells them to go to F# for fun and profit.
Right. Second time we've heard that today. F# for fun and profit. It's a site for learning F#. Yeah, great.
And then we used to hand them before the pandemic a copy of Domain-Driven Design Made Functional. So another shout out to Scott.
Mm-hmm.
But now they just get that as part of the O'Reilly subscription that Walmart gives us. So
great.
So we use those to ramp people up. But
so in the notes you sent me, you talked about the three. You're kind of been developing these theories. The 3 phases for learning F#. Quickly run me through those, and then we'll bring on our second guest in this section.
Sure. So I found that looking at people's code reviews that they go through these 3 phases. The first one I call fighting the compiler. Basically, at this point, they understand the syntax, but they don't get map spines or monadic functions correctly. You see that they're wrapping and unwrapping types just to make the red lines disappear, and the code is just really hard to read. Once they get past that, the next phase I call learning the tools. What they get is they're not really understanding how powerful a match statement can be, or they use a choose where a filter would have been better, or using an array instead of lists, even though they iterate over the whole collection each time. To fix that, it's just repetitive feedback over the code reviews and explaining why the other thing is better rather than just saying, do it this way.
Interesting.
The last one is thinking functionally. Most people with object-oriented backgrounds will be skeptical when hearing about the merits of immutability or type safety. I never thought I had a problem with those things before F#. You need a really great example of something they're currently working with that helps them see that light. For example, it can be a challenge to convince them that state transitions through types in a DU help make code cleaner and more readable than filling in some missing option properties on a type, like you would in object-oriented.
Yeah.
They'll end up with the same general set of functions, but it will be much more self-documenting. Some folks try it out. Other times I just have to do it myself and show them the results. It's really hard to teach that last part to the team because they need to work on a task that sets that up for them, and not every piece of work they do will lead them down that path.
I see. So F# is giving you the tools to capture the complexity in things like state transitions as information gets enriched in a pipeline, but or as things develop. And it's giving you the tools, and then there's a learning phase that the team needs to go through, and new people about how to deploy those tools in the right way to capture the complexity of what's going on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's great. I'd love to. We'll be coming back to these topics, I'm sure. Thank you so much for joining us today, and stay with us. Fascinating insights, because we'll bring on our next guest in this section of growing and building out F# in the enterprise. We'll bring on Edward. If Edward could stay, that would be great. And we have Vageef Avilov will be joining us now. And we have Vageef. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. Welcome along to the show.
Hello,
Tell us,
thank
Vageef, introduce yourself and tell us who you are for, and we'll continue.
Yeah, I'm Vageef Avilov. I'm Russian, living in Norway, and have been working for several years at various projects at NRK. NRK is a kind of, it can be compared with BBC in England. It's a Norwegian broadcasting corporation working with radio, TV, and some public services like weather forecast, election result monitoring. So it's quite a broad domain.
I see. So we've gone from the area of food delivery to the area of a major TV media company with,
Yes.
a wash with that. So should I be thinking you're like writing video codecs or something in F#? What are you doing? What are you writing?
In our small team, where I'm working mostly, we writing services to upload to the cloud media files. It's of different qualities, so people can render on different devices at the best qualities. And of course, it's 24/7. It's also news clips, so everything has to work all the time. Should be very performant. Yeah, and we're using F# and Akka.NET, so it's actor model-based system.
Okay, Akka.NET for Actibase. That's great. That's one of the many different programming models for doing cloud and distributed programming in .NET and with F#. So tell us a little bit about the profile of typical programmers using F# at NRK. How long did they take to get up to speed, and did they find it easy to learn?
I checked yesterday at GitHub and found that we have 67 repositories qualified as F# repository, which makes F# quite popular language in organization after, of course, JavaScript, C# and Java. And with so many repositories, it's probably hard for me to speak on behalf of various teams. But I think what may be common with different teams is that we have quite complex domain. And it's quite important to get type definitions right. As you had a slide about F# being good for correct programming. I recently watched a presentation that studied half-life of different software entities. So, for example, half-life of software developers in a project is about 3 years, which means that in 3 years, statistically, half of the team will be gone or replaced. But half-life of code lines is 13 years. So maybe contrary to our expectation, we think that we continuously improve our code. It's we as a team, but not we as individuals. So it's somebody else who will be maintaining my code. And then it's very important to get code right. And I think that F# is an excellent choice to, with strong typing, to properly describe such complex domains. And probably that's one of the main reasons that different teams choose this language.
That is absolutely wonderful to hear. Now, we are running short on time today. I'm so glad, Vageef, that we had the news from NRK. I know it's a great example of using F# in media. I think all these really complex, the complexity of our modern world is media and logistics. And we have two great examples of how F# is helping to solve those problems, and two great examples of deploying F# in the enterprise. And Edward, your experience as a developer manager in working with an large F# team over a long period of time now is really interesting for us all. And I know the F# community, and in fact the .NET community, will be coming back to you. And I think you will be love to have you at future F# events talking more about your experiences in those particular areas, which are so crucial for the actual rollout of F# in enterprise situations. And Baggy, thank you very much as well for coming along.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you. So that was Edward, and then Baggy from NRK TV in Norway, full stack in cloud and media with F#. I will very quickly run through some other companies. Here's a wall of logos of companies which are using F#. And we have a few, I'll call out a few of the stories just very briefly. We have Software Park, this one down the bottom in the middle. Software Park choose F# because it allows them to codify domain logic clearly and concisely. The GPS aggregation product that they started building 18 months ago is already processing nearly 8 million signals for 60,000 devices across Europe every day. They're promoting the use of F# has significantly increased the number of quality candidates actively seeking to work for them. So they report F# as a bonus in hiring great developers. The next I'll call out is Rocket Mortgage, right in the middle, and it is the USA's largest mortgage lender. And they use F# to create microservices again, which we've heard about on .NET. In an event streaming platform. So again, we see that event streaming on the back end to pool loans to sell on the secondary mortgage market. And today they process tens of millions of events every day across dozens of services with a minimal infrastructure footprint, with F# being an important driver in that. CalTime, I will mention at the top in middle at the top here. And they have built a service for attendance, time tracking, and absence and shift planning. And F# allows them to keep the code simple, even in complicated business cases. Also mentioned CN Group, who have been applying a functional first approach to customer projects in .NET. And they use Fable and SafeStack, which we hear about. And they deliver, most importantly, on higher customer satisfaction. And finally, Olo provides world-class software as services for online orders and delivery in the restaurant industry. The engineers love working with F#. It's been a real asset in attracting high-quality engineers. So in this last section, I'm going to bring on 4 very special guests. And we have 4 guests. The first is Kevin Schneider, who's a researcher from Technical University of Kaiserslautern and is using F# for maths and stats. And the next is Ambika Eshwar, who's a student, and wonderful to have Ambika along. He's a student and functional programming enthusiast from Rutgers. So welcome, Kevin, and welcome, Ambika. Lovely to have you both along.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll also bring on Dr. Faisal Waris, who is an AI and ML machine learning researcher doing data science with F#. Hello, Faisal, welcome along. And finally, we'll bring on Darren Platt, who's the president of a biotech company called Demetrix, based in the Bay Area. And welcome along, Darren. And in this section, we have the themes of this section, of those original themes about F# being for succinct, robust, and performant programming. And we've asked you on together because in some ways you all represent different aspects of this thing of why do those characteristics attract people. And let's begin, first of all, with you, Ambika. And I'd like to hear, you're a student and you've been attracted to F#. And tell me, if you had to pick out those characteristics, succinct, robust, and the like, which of them appealed to you for choosing F# as a focus of your work?
I think robustness and succinctness in that order.
I see. So it's the what is it about robustness that you're trying that when you think about that? What are you trying to program up? What sort of things are you working with?
A lot of what I do is just hobbyist experimentation, right? I've written like small programming language implementations, lots of parsers, tools for working with databases. And a lot of what I find is that, F#, the way it's designed, the way the compiler works, makes me a better programmer. It forces me to be more robust.
So tell me, why don't you do this in Python?
Okay, so what I found was that when I started using functional languages, when I started using F#, I was able to keep the succinctness that Python gave me, but I was able to write way more robust code in a very beautiful way. It was allowing me to be very expressive, but it was forcing me to make better decisions. And it was eliminating tons of runtime errors I was having with Python.
That's fascinating. Now, Darren, I know you work in bioinformatics, and in fact, you are an ex-Python developer, but you use F#, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, first of all, I want to just say thanks if Guido's out there for Python. I adopted in 1994, and it was amazing step forward. And I'd say eventually I got tired of making the same mistakes. What Ambika was talking about. You run some code, you find out after 3 hours that there's a type error on the last line, and you get the wrong answer. And F# is just a better Python. If you're doing complicated code, it runs faster, it checks stuff at compile time, it's type safe. I really think you can have all the good things about Python and also just get a lot of benefits on top of it. It's also just kept on moving. The JavaScript backend means you can do full stack programming on it now, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think that is an interesting new dimension. That's wonderful to hear that. And this is not from a hobbyist perspective. You're using this in a bioinformatics company.
I should actually. I just give you the tagline. My day job is making cannabinoids, the active ingredients in cannabis, in yeast. So we have fermenters that produce all sorts of wonderful and useful molecules. And so we do everything from very complicated algorithms, DNA design, to tracking about 1 million bits of liquid moving through a lab every sort of on a yearly basis. So really complicated. And you often hear like F# is good for science and finance, where you have really complicated things and it's expensive if you make a mistake. And I would sort of flip that around and say, is there an industry where it's inexpensive to make mistakes? Mistakes that are expensive. And F# just helps us avoid a lot of those at design time, at edit time, rather than a year into production when you find the results are wrong.
This event is actually really having this conversation. It's actually changing my perspectives on where F# is finding a sweet spot in industrial settings. We have it in education settings. Ambika talking about how it's helping her become a better programmer, and Darren, you're talking talking about the robustness qualities and I think performance qualities as well. Or also
absolutely. I also, back when I was a Python programmer, I used to play this game where I would write something in Python because it was quick to write it, and I'd set it loose on a big pile of DNA sequence, and it was going to run for 2 days. And then I would try and rewrite the algorithm in C++ and see if I could finish faster than the Python had executed. So it was like a trade-off between I can get the algorithm right quickly or I can get it to run quickly. But it was hard enough to get the C++ to work that sometimes the Python was faster. And I always assumed that was a trade-off. I could write code quickly or I could have it run quickly. And F# was the first language where it's like, actually, I don't feel the need to rewrite this because it's fast enough, for almost every application that I don't break out C++ or Rust or something to optimize anything. It's just damn fast. And then if it's a little slow, it's so easy to write parallel code now that I can just grab 32 threads and scale it up without all of the kind of problems you normally have in a lot of languages introducing parallelism, because it's well designed.
Well, that is great to hear. Now, let me ask my two. Let's start with you, Kevin, and please introduce yourself. Kevin, I understand you're in Germany at the Kaiserslautern Technical University. Tell us about your group there.
Exactly. So we are basically doing fundamental plant research there. So something a little bit on the lines, as Darren just said, helps us there as well. But I think what makes us unique in this case, or why F# helps us with our unique problems, is that in fundamental research, you don't always know what is right. Even if you get some results, you can't know if they are right, because no one else did that before, some experiment, something like that. And if you have a language where you can't accidentally, for example, add integers and strings, that already helps you to minimize the errors that you could have during your data analysis pipeline, for example. So this is why we love F# for research. Basically.
So you're saying your F#'s correctness, robustness kind of properties are helping you get your research right?
Exactly, or at least it helps us to eliminate sources of incorrectness.
Stop you getting it wrong. Now, tell me, you are involved in FS Lab, and you're going to be giving a talk later on today. Thank you very much for being a part of the conference. And so tell us a little bit about what is FS Lab and F# Stats as well.
So FS Lab is, I think you introduced that term, actually thought of as this center of gravity for data science in F#, basically. So we providing a space where projects can align to each other to form a data analysis stack. Think of like, if you're coming from an R background, like Tidyverse for F#, for example. And yeah, I think I will, or at least I hope I will be able to show later this day that all the tools are there to be productive in data science with F#.
Okay, so if you're interested in data science in F#, I talked about F# being useful. We've seen it for web and microservices, and we'll be hearing a lot about that. If you're interested in data science in F#, please come along to Kevin's talk later in the day. And let me introduce my last very special guest, who it's a pleasure to finally meet you face to face, is Dr. Faisal Waris. And please introduce yourself.
Hi, Don, and I am Faisal Waris. I work as a data scientist at a large telecom. I've been using F# ever since it came out. My first language when I started my career was Smalltalk. It was object functional at that time with tail call optimization. But it went away with Java, and Java was never satisfactory for me, and I was looking for something better until I discovered F#, and that was it then.
I see. Now, you've been doing amazing work recently, where you've been doing AI and ML programming with F#, and I saw this incredible result that your F# code is actually shorter than your Python code by a couple of lines. So basically, they're the same for this graph convolutional model neural network.
Yeah, so I ported a Python model called a graph convolutional network over to F#, over to TorchSharp. And what I found was that the lines of code in both cases was just about the same. But F# was actually 10 times faster for the data pre-processing side. Now, for model training, they're both the same because they both leverage the C++ library underneath. But F# was way faster than Python. And that's an important factor these days because we're encountering ever-increasing data sizes, a more complex pipeline. So type safety and performance is really key in data science these days.
Okay, so you've got Darren doing bioinformatics, getting those performance qualities for the data processing over there. You've got Faisal, you've been seeing those in the machine learning space, which is a very competitive space for tooling. And I was really, really pleased that the succinctness properties, and we often talk about succinctness and correctness with F#, but to see those performance properties really of .NET and F# and .NET really coming to the fore was wonderful.
Absolutely, yes. I'm also using F# as a front end for Spark now with the .NET for Apache Spark, so that's quite helpful as well.
Yes, so it's a great, we haven't talked about it in this keynote, but F# has a wonderful big data story now with F# on Apache Spark. And you can see the samples on the .NET for Apache Spark homepage, and head over there. And we might be having some more about that later in the day. With that, we do have to wrap up. I want to say a huge thank you. I wish we had more time. I know we're all going to be meeting at various F# community events, one way or the other, going forward. And it has been a pleasure to have you all on today and to talk about these themes and to just get the feeling for how they play out in your different domains. We'll be hearing more from Kevin later on in the day. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Ambika. And thank you, Faisal. And with that, we will wrap up for the day. So just if we're back on screen with my slides, I believe here. Then we have some learning resources. So you can go to docs.microsoft.com/learn. You can go to .NET/F#. There's also an excellent course done by Kit Eason called the Udemy F# from the ground up course. That is a paid-for course, but of a small amount. But you can also go to docs.microsoft.com/learn and look at your first steps in F# and or .NET/F#, and there are great resources available for learning. With that, I will end my keynote and hand back over to Jeff. I want to say thank you for joining here today. You can ask your questions live. I'll be back on later on the day for the session where I'm teaching Guido van Rossum, the designer of Python. We'll be learning some F#. And back over to you, Jeff. Thank you very much.
Oh my gosh, Don, so much to boil out of there, and I love that key fact. F# is good for programming. Take it where you want to go.
It's great.
Oh my gosh, so many cool things. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you later today when we bring on our friend Guido. But we've got another guest joining us that I'm going to excuse you for a minute.
All right.
We're going to bring
Thank
on.
you very much, Byle.
All righty, we'll see you.